Hello students. So today we are going to start our chapter from the inaugural speech of Nelson Mandela. We have all learned about Nelson Mandela, about his anti-apartheid, and we know that he was one of the foremost anti-apartheid activists. We have learned about his imprisonment, and we have learned about how he was brought out of the jail with the efforts of the whole world, and then the formation of a democratic government in South Africa. Now, this is his inaugural speech. This speech is very special because he was the first president of a united democratic non-racial government, besides being the first black president of South Africa. This was the first speech of a democratically elected president in South Africa. So this speech symbolized change in government. It ended apartheid and it was overcoming of past hardships and moving forward as a united country. This speech holds a very important part in history. Now, the audience, the people who were there to listen to this speech, there was a global audience. The whole world was attuned to South Africa. International and national broadcasts were done. South Africans were definitely a part of it, and all his supporters and adversaries. Excuse me. As I told you, leaders and dignitaries from over 140 nations were present there in Pretoria on that day. He began his speech by recalling the history of South Africa and paying homage to national martyrs who had sacrificed their lives for the sake of their motherland. He talked about the unimaginable sacrifices that the people had made, and there were thousands of unknown people who had sacrificed their lives for this day. He talked about the martyrs and their extraordinary courage and wisdom. He spoke that the wounds which were caused by the apartheid regime would not heal so soon. It would take them years and probably generations to heal. And then he spoke that there was one positive thing or one unintended effect of apartheid. That was like, it was most, this apartheid was to subjugate people. But he here said that there were men of extraordinary courage and character and wisdom who were produced by this. And that is true. Until and unless people face extremities in their life, they cannot show the resilience. We cannot imagine what kind of torture people bear, things unimaginable done by these great people. So he talks about Oliver Tambo. He mentions Walter Sisulu, Chief Ruthul, Yusuf Dadu, Braham Fisher, Robert Subuko. These were the people who had led the anti-apartheid movement at different times. And they were all they were real great leaders. Then he says that brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers the fear. He says that he knew all the time that the greatest wealth of his country were his people. Even though South Africa is very rich in minerals and precious stones, it is known for diamonds world over. But he says it is not from these things that they become rich. South Africa is rich because of its people. He says he had learned the meaning of courage from comrades. Now, when he joined African National Congress, they used to call each other comrades. That is how they used to address each other, the people, all the members of the African National Congress. So he says he had learned a lot of things from his comrades, and he had witnessed how people, men and women, ordinary men and women, how they had stood up to attacks and torture without breaking or showing any kind of weakness. They had showed strength and resilience that had defied everyone's imagination, and that would defy everyone's imagination. So he says that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. He also talked about hate, love, and obligation. He said, nobody is born with hate in their heart. They learn how to hate people. So he says, if people can learn how to hate, they can be taught to love. But then he says that love comes naturally to human heart. It is a natural thing. And so it is there. It can be hidden, but it can never be extinguished. The goodness. And he has cited an example here. He says, even during the hard days in jail, in the prison, when they were in torture chambers, he would see a flicker of kindness in a guard's eyes. The same people who were torturing them, who were bringing them to their knees, he would see something, a flicker of love or affection or probably kindness in their eyes. And then he moves on and says that every man has twin obligations. And these twin obligations, the first one is to his family, that is his parents, his siblings, his children, and his wife, and then to his people, his community, and his country. And he says that every human being, in their own capacity, should serve or should abide or should oblige or should do these two obligations. They should be, they should do, they should help their families as well as their country. But during the apartheid time, it was impossible to fulfill both because